When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, welcome back to the Grease Comedy channel. Today's video, we are going to be doing Tyrion III, A Game of Thrones. And in today's video, we are going to be going through Tyrion at the Wall. This is going to be his last chapter at the Wall. A lot of this chapter is basically on his last meetings with Jeor Mormont and also with Jon Snow. So, let's get into the chapter, starting on page 203. But before we get into the video, if you guys would like to subscribe for more of these rereadings, we're going to be going through the entire series. Hopefully, it's going to take a while. But if you want to see more of these, subscribe and like. So, page 203 opens with Tyrion talking to the Lord Commander Mormont, saying he must leave and Mormont wishes Tyrion would stay longer. The Wall needs men like him. Now, again, I think this is mainly due to the idea that Tyrion is a very cunning and smart person. He is not someone as stupid as a lot of the people here. Tyrion could take on a role of leadership, whether that be in actually running the wall or whatnot. And I think that's what Mormont is kind of playing on, not as like a fighting man or anything like that. Tyrion then jests, because, you know, Tyrion, I think this is one thing they kind of do miss in this show, is Tyrion is much more of a jokester, I guess, where he doesn't take things serious at all. But he goes, I will scour the 7 kingdoms for dwarves and send them to you. A little bit of foreshadowing to when Cersei is going to be putting out hits on basically all the dwarves in the world after the Purple Wedding when Tyrion escapes. So again, a little bit of foreshadowing if you want to take it in that direction. Now, Alliser Thorne, being ever the guy he is, says Tyrion is mocking them. And Tyrion responds with saying, no, I'm mocking you, Thorne. And we're going to see this verbal spar between the two, and Tyrion definitely gets the upper hand. That'll get us into page 204. So beginning 204, then Thorne then notes that he talks a lot for half a man, and they should meet in the yard, to which Tyrion notes, why? The crabs are here. Again, we see that in this world a lot of times when people are intellectually smarter than others, they will resort to what their strengths are. When we look at Ned and what his strategy is in King's Landing, he doesn't really want to play the verbal spar. He doesn't want to play the Game of Thrones. He wants to, if he's going to have to, do what he is good at in war. You know, he's preparing for war. He's getting the North ready for that. He is prepared to do that, something he is actually good at. And Thorne is kind of doing the same thing. He knows Tyrion's not a good fighter because of, well, his physical abilities. And Thorne is, by all means, a competent swordsman. And this angers Thorne even more, saying that they should meet with steel in hand. And Tyrion has the perfect clapback. He says he has steel in his hand, the crab fork, and then he begins to like wave it at Thorne like he's gonna fight him, and taunts him. And this just is enough for Thorne. He leaves the table bitterly to the laughter of the rest of the officers. And Tyrion claims his spoils of war, taking Thorne's food. So again, and this is the other thing that I think is interesting, is later as the series progresses, we'll see that people don't laugh at Thorne. This is one of those few instances where we see Thorne lose, get completely verbally destroyed, and people are actually laughing at him. So again, you can kind of see why Thorne is a very bitter person just on interactions like this. And yeah, so moving on. And when we really find out, there's another real reason as to why Thorne wouldn't really like Tyrion. Tyrion, you know, is a Lannister, and Tyrion, as we find out later in this page and into the next one, that Tywin was the one that actually sent Thorne and someone like Riker to the Wall because they were on the wrong side. Mormont notes that Tyrion should not taunt Thorne so. But Tyrion then begins to note how Thorne is like an awful person. He has no humor. He should not be training your young, but he should actually be cleaning the stables. And Mormont, to his credit, is like, we have so few knights or anyone really with actual sword ability. We have too many of people that are mucking up stables, but we don't have enough of the swordsmen. And that's kind of why Mormont makes this excuse that Thorne is the one leading and training. But if we take a look at what we're going to learn out later in this chapter and even in the future of the series, Thorne isn't really training these people at all. Like, he just isn't. He doesn't understand how to. He doesn't really want to. And that's a key point here that Tyrion's making, is that Mormont is making a mistake by letting Thorne be in this role. And it's one of those situations where, oh, well, Thorne's status gets in the job, not his actual ability to teach and or have a sword fight. And Mormont also gives Thorne credit, saying he is one of the few knights who fought bravely at King's Landing, which, again, fine, but he's not a good teacher. And this then has Jeremy Riker note that they fought on the wrong side, leading into page 205. So into page 205, Riker notes that he was there. Tywin gave him the option, head on Spike or the Black. And they chose the Black, like I think most people in that situation probably would. Tyrion takes no offense to this, but he does note that Tywin does like his heads on spikes, which we do know. And Mormont kind of begins to voice his doubts that maybe Tyrion is making fun of them. And Tyrion notes that we all need to be made fun of from time to time, or else we take ourselves too seriously. And that's a really great statement from Tyrion, because I think that's true. When people are not made fun of every once in a while, or you know, you don't have like fun, for instance, you go way too serious. You take yourself too differently. If you look at Stannis is someone that doesn't like laughter. He's someone that doesn't like, you know, being made fun of or anything like that. He does take himself very seriously. And Tyrion, I think, gets this idea from Tywin, because Tywin is the exact opposite of what Tyrion is saying right now. Tywin is someone that doesn't like laughter as well as Stannis. He is someone that takes everything too seriously about legacy and this or that. So again, Tyrion is kind of referencing, we're getting a lot of building for Tyrion's father, who we haven't even met yet. Tyrion then reaches for more wine, to which is noted that he has a large appetite for such a small man, and this prompts a very interesting line. Aegon goes, I think Tyrion is quite a large man. I think he is a giant come to us at the end of the world. Now, this is the second time that Tyrion has been noted as a giant, or a big figure, right? In Jon's first chapter, we also see him think of Tyrion as casting a large shadow, or a bigger presence than he actually is. And again, we're getting all this ideas that Tyrion is someone that, yes, he may have a small stature, but he has a lot to give to the world. He has a lot that he is going to impact coming in the next few books. And Tyrion, again, does not know what to say to this. He's never been called this before, but he politely says, thank you. You are too kind. Aemon, then we get a little bit of a description from Tyrion that he's kind of a small, old, frail man. We know Aemon is blind and he has his maester's chain. Aemon then replies with the same courtesy, saying he is seldom referred as being kind, to which Tyrion laughs. So again, we see some verbal like sparring between Aemon and Tyrion. It's all in good fun. I thought that was a really cool line from Aemon, and it really builds his character, something we didn't really see in the show too much with this idea. And that gets us into page 206. Getting into page 206, Mormont then notes how perilous the roads can be and wants to send men with Tyrion to at least Winterfell. Now, we know why Mormont is doing this. Mormont is seeing a couple opportunities here. One, he wants to get on Tyrion's good side, and two, he wants something from Tyrion. And these are things that Tyrion picks up very quickly. Tyrion notes that he has 2 Lannister men, and he also is going to be accompanied by Yoren, so he'll be fine, he thinks. And Mormont's like, no, you know, we're going to send some people to escort you. And Tyrion thinks, well, why not send Jon, right? So Jon can see his family. Bran has just recently woken up. And Mormont is a bit uncomfortable about this. He visually, from the description we get, is not really too happy with that. And he says that Jon is too young and he needs to forget those feelings and family. And Mormont knows what it's like, with Jorah dishonoring the family and Mage now ruling with nieces he has never even seen or met before. No, Tyrion will have 3 strong men to guard him. Now, it's very interesting the way that Mormont is suggesting that Jon needs to forget his feelings, forget his family, because in a way, he's right, because what would Jon do if it came to a situation where the Starks were in trouble or the Wall was in trouble? And that's exactly what has been building up, and this is going to be the main premise of the later parts of this story, is does Jon desert? When Ned is getting imprisoned and all those things like that, will Jon leave? And that's what Mormont is trying to beat out of Jon, and it's a great point, because I think Mormont himself, maybe at this moment now, does not realize what Jon could be for the Watch, but he realizes that, again, having another person with Stark blood here is very important, and it could be used really to a high command. With this, Tyrion, again, like I already said, knows that Mormont wants something in return, and he's not wanting to dance around it. He kind of goes straight to the point, saying he hopes he can repay this kindness. And then Mormont, again, he's pretty direct with his response as well, asking Tyrion to tell his family, tell Robert what has become of the Watch. Tyrion has seen the Watch. He's been here for a couple weeks, I believe, and the Wall is undermanned. People are going missing. The Watch is slowly dying. And Mormont notes that he sent Benjen out looking for a Royce boy because he was, very green. And we know, again, this is the prologue chapter, he never comes back. But we see again this privilege and the politics of the Wall. Royce was highborn and was asking for ranging, and Mormont didn't want to offend his father. Now, why would Mormont not want to offend his father? Because what that does is, if Mormont goes ahead and starts offending people, saying, you can't just instantly get these things, you have to work for it, that could dissuade people from sending their children to the Wall willingly. And having that, high praise like a Royce thought he was going to get. And that's kind of the idea, that Mormont has to play around some of the lords, or he's not going to get any more recruits. And that gets us into page 207. Mormont kind of believes that he was a fool sending all of these people and then sending Benjen after them as well. But he notes that Garrett was one of his best rangers, and he has been on the Wall even longer than Mormont has, but yet something changed him and he deserted. Again, this is what I'm talking about when we're talking about Garrett in the beginning of the story. Garrett is someone has seen a lot. He's been through a lot. He's been on the Wall for a very long time. One of the most seasoned rangers of the Wall, but yet he deserted. So what spooked him so much to leave the Wall? That's what I think some of our characters should be thinking about, and I think Mormont is getting to that point here. And Mormont just knows that the Wall is in shambles. There's no one left to lead if Mormont was to die. If Mormont is going to lead a force north of the Wall and see what's going on, if Mormont dies, who's going to take over? Thorne? Bowen Marsh? Mormont knows that there is no one left to lead the Wall. They are all unfit. And this is going to be the idea of why Jon becomes so important to Mormont, because Mormont is worried about the state of the Wall after his death. Because Mormont is not a young man anymore. He's definitely into his older age. And he's trying to secure the leadership of the Wall before he dies. And Tyrion sees how badly Mormont is struggling with all of this and how serious this is. But Tyrion just understands that he's talking to deaf ears, right? Tyrion can promise these things, that he's going to bring up the issue, which he says he will, but no one's going to listen to him. Like Jaime, specifically, Mormont says, oh, ask Jaime and tell him about this. Jaime's not going to care. Robert definitely is not going to care. Cersei would laugh, and so would Tywin. No one's going to care about the Wall. And that's the sad point, is that Tyrion is taking all this in, but he realizes that he really can't help the Wall. At this point, anyway. And Mormont asks Tyrion, how many winters have you lived through? And Tyrion says, 8 to 9, and they have all really been short. Which gets us into page 208. Mormont then suggests long summers mean even longer winters, to which Tyrion says, maybe we are in the great summer, because again, the winters have been getting shorter, summers lasted a very long time. When we come into the main story, maybe we're at the great summer. And Mormont says, Tyrion, you are no fool. The days are growing shorter. The Citadel has already backed up this claim, sending things to the Wall saying, yeah, winter is coming soon. And Mormont again tries to reiterate to Tyrion, you must make them listen. There are creatures north of the Wall. and fishermen are seeing sightings of White Walkers at Eastwatch. And this is kind of too much for Tyrion. He lets his mouth go again, something we see as a common trend with Tyrion, that he can't keep his mouth shut at times. And Tyrion jests that the fisher folk in Lannisport see murderlings. And Mormont continues by saying mountain people by Shadow Tower running, but from what? He reinforces the importance of getting the wall help. At this point, Tyrion is kind of hurt enough. He knows this isn't really going anywhere. He then leaves, stating, "Thank you for the counsel, but he must sleep. Yoren wants to ride at first light." And this gets us into page 209. So, page 209 is kind of a shorter page for just an analysis, but basically Tyrion leaves. He's on his way to the King's Tower. He's extremely cold and tired, and he's hoping that there's a fire that's already been made. But he's eventually taken over with this weird feeling to go to the top of the wall one last time and to look off the edge of the world. So he starts heading towards the elevator. He doesn't want to take the stairs because, again, would you want to take the stairs all the way up when you're Tyrion's physical status and it's the middle of the night, presumably, or the evening, around that time? I do not blame Tyrion as he goes to the elevator. Now, he waits in this elevator for quite a long time, and we'll get to the top of the wall in the next page. Like I said, this page begins with Tyrion's ascent, and Tyrion notes how empty the wall feels. Again, playing on the fact that it's undermanned. He's looking out down at Castle Black and notes how empty it is. He sees Molestown in the distance with its light in the distance. And even just the actual land feels so empty. And that's just talking about like the land around in the north that he can see this high up. But when he arrives at the top, he is greeted by two Night's Watchmen asking his business, to which Tyrion just says, "I want to look around." And they tell him not to fall off, because again, Mormont is banking a lot on Tyrion being able to help. So Tyrion should not fall off the wall, is basically what they tell him. And Tyrion really doesn't have any fear of this. Again, Tyrion is not a big person, and the top of the wall is wider than the King's Road. Again, I feel like this is another thing that they may have not gotten completely right in the show, because the show, it kind of feels just like a normal path. In the book, it's a bit wider, right? The King's Road is not like some little tiny road. Like this is a fairly big wall top. And Tyrion really doesn't have any issues with or fear of falling off. Now, the one thing that is a little sketchy up here on the wall is that the roads, or the top of it, can be very slick, which is why they have to constantly put up crushed up stones as walk paths. And this is a very tedious job when you think about it, because you constantly have to be doing it, right? You constantly have to be putting your crushed stone for these paths over and over and over again. And that gets us into page 211. And in 211, we see Tyrion talking about the exact process I was, talking about with the crushed up stone and how it had to be repeated and all of that. And Tyrion notes how cold it is, and he decides to go west on the wall. He keeps walking west, and he's getting cold and he's sore until he reaches a huge catapult. Now, what's interesting about this catapult is it is described as being so big, but it seems to be broken, in need of repair, not actually usable. Again, showing the idea that the watch just does not have enough men to fix all of their issues, to completely man the wall. Even a catapult this so close to Castle Black is not fully ready to go if there was an assault on the wall. And behind and leaning on this catapult, we see Jon. Jon is like, who goes there and all, whatever. Which is kind of weird, because it's like, Jon, who would you expect to be up here? Like, do you think some wildlings, like, broke in or climbed the wall at, like, right at Castle Black? It is kind of weird. It kind of shows how Jon is still kind of new to the watch. But it is a little interesting. I wanted to note that. And Jon is unexpected to find Tyrion up here, and Tyrion asks if he can pet Ghost. And Jon says, yeah, as long as I'm here, he's fine. And Tyrion notes that Ghost has gotten bigger, and he notes that in a year, Tyrion will probably be looking up to Ghost. Again, reinforcing the idea of how quickly these direwolves grow. And that gets us to page 212. All right, so page 212, we see Tyrion asking why Jon is up here. And apparently Thorne has given him night duty to, take watch on the wall to hopefully make him fall asleep during morning duty, which has yet to happen. And Jon notes, again, he's very excited that, some of the other recruits are getting better, like Gren and Pip. And we learned that Thorne had not even taught Pip how to properly hold a sword. It shows how poor of a teacher Thorne is. Jon then asks Tyrion to walk with him because, again, he has to, watch a mile stretch of the wall. And Tyrion says, well, yeah, if we go so slowly, I can't really walk that fast. And, Jon and Tyrion agree, and they start to walk. And Tyrion tells Jon that he is leaving in the morning, which gets a very sad response from Jon. Jon already knows, but he seems very saddened by this. And I think we can kind of realize this. Tyrion has been someone that has been very helpful to Jon in understanding the wall, what it is, who he needs to be as a person. And we really see that amplified in this last chapter between the two. And Tyrion offers to take a message for Jon because he's going to be going through Winterfell. And Jon starts piling on a couple requests, telling Tyrion to tell Robb that he's going to be Lord Commander one day and protecting him so that he doesn't have to do anything, and telling Rickon, where he is and why. And, well, with Bran, just to help him. And Tyrion notes that I don't know how to help him. I can't make him walk again. I'm no maester. And that'll get us into page 13. And Jon basically says, help him like you helped me. And Tyrion says, well, with words? And yeah, with words. Because words are so impactful and they can have so much meaning in your life. If you just can think about a moment in your life where you had somebody tell you something that changed your life or helped you become the person that you are. I know for me, I have a couple moments. I'll give you guys one of them right now. A couple months before my grandfather died, and I was very close to my grandfather. At this point, I was, I'm only 5'9". I was at that point, 215 pounds, and he sat me down and really talked to me. And maybe at the moment, I didn't take it the way I should have, but it helped me, and now I'm, I've lost 70 pounds since then, and that was a major turning point for my life, because who knows what could have gone on if I'd kept living that unhealthy lifestyle. That is what Jon is basically saying to Tyrion, you were someone that gave me some of the words that I needed to build as a person and to grow up. And Tyrion understands this, and he says he will do what he can do, and Jon takes off his glove and says, friend, to Tyrion. And this is just an incredible gesture because we don't see a lot of moments like this for Tyrion especially. There are not a lot of people that Tyrion is literally friends with. A lot of times people are friends with Tyrion because he's either rich or he can get them some sort of station. This is a genuine friendship, and I think Tyrion is incredibly touched by that. And he takes off his glove and shakes his hand. Now, the rest of the page deals with the idea of how the Night's Watch is supposed to keep the forest at bay, right? So we're told, that the forest is starting to come back closer to the wall, and maybe at least at this spot at Castle Black, they've kept it at bay, but in other spots, the woods have kind of creeped towards the Watch. And there's a lot of reasons why you would want the woods farther back from the wall, because you want to see what's approaching before it gets there. You don't want wildlings or whatever to sneak up to the wall. And that's kind of the whole point there. But again, in a lot of these areas, because of how undermanned we see the Watch, it's starting to struggle a bit. And again, noting on the big idea of this chapter being the Night's Watch is very undermanned. They are in a very sorry state, and they are in trouble. Now, getting into page 214. Tyrion, then looking down at the forest and thinking about it, he starts to feel foolish because he kind of starts to believe that there could be White Walkers out there. There could be some of these other things like direwolves and all this other stuff that Mormont was saying. And we see that character growth where before Tyrion had come to the wall, there was no way he was going to believe this. Now he, looking up or looking down on the rest of the world, he starts to maybe believe it. I think that's an interesting character arc for Tyrion. And Jon notes how Benjen is still missing, and at one point Jon thought that he would be the one on duty and he would, blow the horn, show that Benjen is back, but it didn't happen, and that Benjen is still missing. And Tyrion tells him to just give him time. And Jon then ends the chapter saying, if he doesn't come back, Me and Ghost will go and find him. And Tyrion notes in his head, who will go and find you. A very somber ending to this chapter, as these two, it's their last chapter together. And this chapter is a very dark chapter, right? The Watch is painted as being in a very bad state. We see Jon and Tyrion's last talk. And we also get this idea that Tyrion notes that if Jon goes looking for Benjen, he will die. A lot of things happen in this chapter. It's a great chapter for Jon specifically. Without Jon really being in a lot of this chapter is great for what he is going to be facing in this book and the books to come. And also a great chapter for Tyrion and how he's going to maybe take this threat of the North more seriously. Because when we get to the situation where Tyrion comes back with Dany and say Tyrion, meets up with Jon again, this is something he's going to remember. His experiences at the Wall, his friendship, quote unquote, with Jon is something that he will remember. So thank you guys all for watching this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Bye, guys.